Hey guys, Dan World Mr. Grey Dandalf the Grey, and today I want to talk about the EMF. This little thing right here. The K2 meter, we'll call it, which is an essential staple of paranormal investigators, ghost hunters, whatever you want to call them, and I thought we'd go into a deep dive with them. I've been making videos about this kind of thing for years, but recently I've spoke about how maybe it's time for a change when it comes to paranormal investigators using specific tools. In this case, the K2 meter. I've had this for quite some time. I've used it in my own little thing. I've run many tests of it with it. So just before I made this video, I wanted to do some real world tests, just in a natural environment. Nothing haunted, no ghosts, just a crappy looking garden. I only cut this grass 2 weeks ago. I lost some hot interest. Interesting. You know, the equipment is a legit electromagnetic frequency detector, is what it is basically. This particular form is made for ghost hunting. I'm always in the argument that if they don't work, or if they haven't worked, maybe it's time to move on and try a different piece of equipment or try something new. Now, EMF detectors, it's nothing new. They weren't made for ghost hunting. They weren't made for paranormal investigating. They were made to legitimately detect electric frequencies, wiring. You know, if you're doing a building, if you're knocking down a wall, you want to make sure you're not going to knock down the outlet which you put your hairdryer in all the time. I have that problem all the time. So EMF detectors are nothing new in the grand scheme of things. They've been around for a long time, but in this specific area of ghost hunters, EMF detectors, as for ghost hunting, only really came into prominence in the mid-70s to early 80s. That's when they started testing them. That's when certain individuals started, saying, I wonder if this means there's a ghost about. When their little Gauss meter, because that's what it was, a milligauss meter, was detecting electromagnetic frequencies. And some theorized or hypothesized maybe a high frequency of electromagnetic frequency, or EMF, is the presence of a ghost or a spirit, or potentially could mean that there is a ghost in this area because of the high EMF detected. That was the theory or hypothesis. That was my headphones. That was the theory back in the 70s and the 80s when they started testing this stuff out in paranormal environment. Now, as far as ghost hunting, these weren't really tested in a controlled environment. They were always tested in supposedly haunted houses, in haunted mansions, hospitals. They were never really tested in a laboratory environment. As far as ghost hunting I'm talking about now. There were some tests done in the 80s in a controlled environment, but it wasn't really EMF related. It was more of if it would cheat your brain into thinking that you're going through a haunting experience by creating certain conditions to mess with your eyes, infrasound and ultrasound, that kind of thing. That's the only really controlled experiments which have been done as far as that is concerned. Now, parapsychologists in the 1970s and 80s, they did do tests, like I said, out in the field when it came to EMF detectors. And it was mainly if someone said, I'm being haunted, please come to my house and help out. They would go there and they would test the frequencies, the EMF around the area in the house, and they would go all through the house. A lot of the times they picked up high EM frequencies. If you go to these places without the knowledge of a haunting, or if completely for something completely different, i.e. a building contract, you would realize that you're picking up wiring, electrical outlets, metal. There's EMF everywhere, from low to high. This is what you gotta realize when using these detectors. Now, the three people who are usually credited with coming up with the theory, or saying that this is what detects ghosts, are Michael Persinger, Hans Holzer, and John Hutchinson. Canadian researcher John Hutchinson is often mentioned in paranormal circles due to his experiments that allegedly created paranormal-like phenomena using electromagnetic fields. Although his work was more focused on physics, it's contributed to the idea that EMFs could be associated with unexplained phenomena. Hans Holzer, a well-known paranormal investigator and author, was one of the early figures to explore the potential connection between environmental factors like EMF and hauntings. While not specifically tied to EMF detectors, Holzer's work laid the groundwork for later investigations to consider technological methods for detecting ghosts. Michael Persinger, a neuroscientist who studied the effects of electromagnetic fields on the human brain, Persinger theorized that certain EMF conditions could trigger experiences perceived as paranormal. His work suggested that EMFs could play a role in creating the sensations associated with hauntings, leading some to believe that monitoring EMFs could help detect paranormal activity. They are the three usually credited on paranormal sites, paranormal books of, during the 70s and 80s of purveying the theory of EMF being the factor when it comes to hauntings and ghosts and spirits. But back then it was just Gauss meters and, big machines to try and detect EMF. When it came to this form, it was popularized in the 2000s by Mr. Jason Hawes, Ghost Hunters, and other similar TV shows around at that time, like Ghost Adventures. Most Haunted didn't really use these as far as I can remember because they were a bit earlier than Ghost Hunters. But it was mainly Jason Hawes and Grant Wilson who popularized this theory that this is how you detect ghosts. Now, in their case, I'll give them that. They were trying something new. Not new, but they were trying something different because, they've obviously used EMF detectors because they were plumbers, I believe, or builders, I can't remember. And in that sense, they were trying something different when it comes to paranormal investigating. But the problem with that is now, and this is an argument I always give when someone says to me, this is how you detect ghosts. They tried the K2 meter, a smaller, more portable form of the EMF detector, back in the early 2000s. And as far as I can tell, it's not evidence, but all evidence they ever caught was circumstantial. There was nothing to ever corroborate the lights flickering on the K2 when they thought there was a ghost present. Or if there was, it was a bit of cherry picking. And there's a lot of editing in those TV shows is highly edited. Now, obviously in the part of Ghost Hunters Taps, they did debunk a lot of this stuff. Grant Wilson, he was extremely sus, as they say. Oh.
What was that? Pulled on my coat.
Oh, bollocks! Because he's been caught up many times. But Jason Hawes, as far as I can tell, was genuinely trying to find something or debunk something. But at the end of the day, it's a TV show. You're going to sensationalize stuff because otherwise nobody's going to watch a TV show and the network is not going to syndicate your TV show. That's the way it works. Unfortunately, I think there is a lot of bias when it comes to TV shows, no matter how skeptical you think you are. It was basically Ghost Hunters, Paranormal State, Ghost Adventures who popularized this version of the EMF detector, the K2. This isn't an official one, but it's the same thing. Don't matter. But they popularized this particular piece of equipment. Now, in the 20 years since, I have never seen, and me neither, I'm a skeptic, as you all know, I've never seen the K2 ever substantiate or corroborate anything when it comes to people calling out for a spirit or a ghost or, do something, please, affect this K2. The K2 gets affected all the time. In every single haunted video, haunted TV show I've ever seen, it's constantly getting affected when they say there's something near me or there's something close. Especially when you have a psychic along with them, they'll say, I feel a presence. You'll get the K2 out like so, and they'll go around and it'll go off. Of course it'll go off because they're in a house with electrical outlets. So the electrical outlets don't have to be on, by the way. It'll still detect it. Because like I said, there's natural EMF all over the place, all around you, at 24/7. And when it comes to scientifically proving that this works for anything other than detecting EMF, it does absolutely detect EMF. That's not the argument. It's the argument that EMF, high EMF, means that there is a spirit about. It's never ever been scientifically proven for that to be detecting ghosts. And this is, again, going back to my argument, who first decided that that is how you find ghosts. Nobody did. Only paranormal investigators did. Only people interested in the paranormal field decided that's how you detect ghosts. But it's never been scientifically proven to detect anything other than natural EMF. So this is why, when it comes to paranormal teams using them, they're only using them because that's what they know. That's what they've been told works. They've been told by the top TV shows. Again, you can't trust TV shows. I'm not saying they're fake. I'm just saying they have a bias, a certain bias, to entertain the public when it comes to TV shows. Otherwise, the networks are not going to put their episodes out. It's as simple as that. But the investigators keep on using them to this day. Same as apps, what have you. They keep on using them to this day without any proof of something working. And I said this before in a previous video. If you were testing something in a scientific method and it didn't work, you'd move on. You wouldn't continue to use it for 20, 30 years plus without a shred of evidence of it ever working. Now, obviously, you're going to get the argument that, well, no, I've asked for them to affect it and it's moved. Oh, it's flickered, I should say. The lights are flickered when it's being asked. I've been on paranormal investigations with other teams who are touted as legit, and I believe they legitimately are going out there with an honest view and an honest take on paranormal investigations. I'm not saying they find anything, but they are genuinely out there to try and find something. I have been there in the room with them using these K2s, and they're going around, and it's like it'll got one light if they're moving past something. It'll flick to 3 lights. And I remember one team I went with, it was going off sporadically throughout like the 20 minutes we were using this particular, not this one, but the K2 meter to try and say, affect this K2 meter, please. It was going off throughout the time we were calling out. And then when it flicked to 3 lights, it's like, look, that means something. And I'm like, no, it's just flicking, it's just detecting high EMF. And they were adamant that that means there's a ghost around. They are only going off what they've been told over the years by other ghost teams, by other paranormal investigators, parapsychologists. But again, there's never been a shred of evidence that anything like those equipments, I keep saying equipments again, there's no evidence that they actually work anything other than natural phenomena, detected natural phenomena as in electromagnetic frequencies. Going on from the other video I made the other day, time for a change, maybe it's time to use something else. I do genuinely think that, I think paranormal investigators, the legit ones, the fake ones, they're always going to use them, obviously. But the legit teams out there, I do actually think they need to try and change things up. Try something new, try something that nobody else has ever used, and just to see what happens, because that's the way you should be doing this, not just using the same old tools that people have used for 20 years which have never detected anything other than a bit of cherry picking and bias confirmation. Try using something different. I want to see the teams use something different, use a bit of initiative, something new, not the same old as by the book paranormal investigator. That's what I think. But anyway, with any tool you ever use in any situation when it comes to investigating anything, paranormal field I'm talking about, you should always be skeptical of it. And if you have any doubts whatsoever of those tools, try and use it in a situation for a number of times, but after that, I think you should genuinely move on. I think it's only hurting you. Most of the tech involved with the paranormal field these days are made by other paranormal investigators or people in the paranormal field. They're never made by people outside of the field. It's always by paranormal investigators, and they sort of pass their stuff around saying this works. But I think it's time to use a bit of initiative, change it up, because it's been a long time now and the tools are not working. It's time to move on. That's my opinion. I'm just saying, I'm not trying to hate on anyone. I'm just saying maybe it's time to use something else. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed. Leave a like if you like this video. Leave something new to my channel. I do this quite often. And I'm just breaking down the tools being used. And yeah, that's it. Anyway, thanks for watching and bye for now.